Hello, everyone. Um, it's nice to see you all again after the last time. So this is, it's about mentoring. I would say it's not a crazy talk like the suffering talk last time, but mentoring is also a large part of what we expect in the church, and a lot of people do look for spiritual mentors in the church and through the pastors and in other avenues. So I kind of thought about linking career mentoring with spiritual mentoring, keeping in mind our context here, because this is a Christian platform largely, right? So to get right into it, what is mentoring and why it's important? So in management literature, if you look at it, we did not have a lot of research on mentoring. Whatever research that you see tends to be kind of very fragmented. They have done a few experiments, they've used a few individuals and just taken interviews from them. They have not done too many sort of long-term studies on mentoring partnerships, right? But in 1985, one of the, I think that was the latest or the earliest, I would say, bit of mentoring literature, really comprehensive mentoring literature that came out in management journals by Kathy Cram. Kathy Cram is currently Professor Emeritus in Boston University. So she has written a lot on mentoring, right? And the definition that she gave for mentoring is that it's an intense developmental relationship, right? Wherein advice, counseling, and developmental opportunities are provided to a protege by a mentor. And the mentor really gives two things. One, he's giving instrumental or career support. And the second, he's giving psychological support, psychosocial support. So this is what Cram initially thought about mentoring, the initial definition of mentoring that really stuck on. So today, when we talk about mentoring in organizational circles, in business management theory, we still start with this initial definition by Kathy Cram. Okay, I like this later definition though, the one by Bozeman and Feeney, which I have highlighted for you. This talks about mentoring in a little more detail, and it tries to differentiate between mentoring and coaching and mentoring and training. So this definition says that mentoring is an informal transmission of knowledge. Keep in mind, it's not that we don't have formal mentoring. Organizations have formal mentoring programs all the time. I myself, I'm a mentor. I have worked with organizations like the Sherry Blair Foundation and the Toronto Region Employment Council. These are all NGOs. And we have worked with mentoring women entrepreneurs on the field, from women entrepreneurs from developing countries with the Sherry Blair Foundation. And with TRIAC over here, I worked with new immigrants to Canada to mentor them so that they can get a good career here in Canada. So there is always a lot of formal mentoring going on. But studies tend to say that it's better for mentoring to be informal rather than formal. Okay, it's always better for the mentee or the protege. They tend to absorb more and gain more out of the partnership if it's an informal transmission of knowledge. So informal transmission of knowledge, social capital, and psychosocial support. Those two terms, social capital and psychosocial support, I'm going to explain it a little more in the following slides. And the support should be perceived by the recipient as relevant to work, career, or professional development. This is very important in mentoring. For the mentoring partnership to work, the mentee or the protege should perceive that he needs a mentor. He should acknowledge that he needs a mentor. He should acknowledge that there is a gap in his knowledge. and that he needs somebody to fill his gap. If that perception or acknowledgement is not there, it will not work. You cannot force a mentor onto somebody, right? The mentee should be able to acknowledge that they need help, that they need somebody more experienced to guide them, and only then the partnership is going to be successful. It's usually face-to-face over a sustained period of time. Training and coachings, they take place over shorter periods of time. Mentoring usually happens over longer periods of time, and it's between a person who's perceived to have greater relevant knowledge, wisdom, or experience, and to a person who's perceived to have less. Now, let's keep in mind, for mentoring, you don't have to have people in different levels of a hierarchy, right? You don't have to necessarily have a manager and a subordinate being mentored. You don't necessarily have to have a pastor and a lay person being mentored, right? It's not about hierarchy. It's more about the dearth of knowledge, right? One person has got more knowledge in one domain. One person has got lesser knowledge. It's not really, you don't really have to have a hierarchical difference. You can also have peer-to-peer mentoring. Okay, so I'm just going to explain two of the terms which you saw just now in the definition. I said that mentoring is about the informal transmission of knowledge, social capital, and psychosocial support. So when I talk about social capital, it means that the mentor and the mentee should have a shared sense of identity. They should have a shared sense of identity, shared norms, values. Now, if you're talking about it from the ministry perspective, right, both of them should be on the same page regarding doctrinal differences, right, regarding the church doctrine, regarding the core doctrines of Christianity, in terms of the theology of Christianity that they believe in. All of those things, they should have shared norms, shared values, and shared sense of identity. In the organization, we always say that between a mentor and a mentee, they should be aware of all the organizational norms, right? They should have the same company culture. They should believe in the same organizational values. So this shared sense of identity has to be there. This is what we mean by transmission of social capital, which basically means becoming friendly with the mentee. So mentoring is not just about training and passing on knowledge. That would become training. An important part of mentoring is socialization, or forming friendship, forming a social bond. And this is extremely important. This is what differentiates mentoring from traditional training and coaching, right? So you must have a shared sense of identity, and the mentee or the protege should feel that he can trust the mentor. He should have a sense of psychological safety with the mentor. Basically, he should be able to tell anything that is on his mind to the mentor without fear of being judged. Okay, and often this becomes a problem even in church circles, in ministry circles. When we talk to somebody, somebody shares confidential information with you, maybe about their personal lives, about personal sins. Oftentimes we tend to talk about personal sins, and we don't want a lot of people to know, but we trust somebody whom we consider to be a mentor, and we tell them about it. Now, tomorrow, if this person goes, and even if they don't mention your name, say they are preaching in church the next day and they use you as an example over there, that would be a cutoff in the mentoring partnership immediately. It all comes down to having a climate of trust, and the mentee should be able to feel safe with the mentor, and the other way around, because a mentor transmits knowledge mainly by sharing his experiences. So when he shares his experiences, he should be able to trust the protege that he would keep it to himself, right? And not pass it on. So they should really be, it should be very strict about confidentiality in mentoring relationships. Cooperation, of course, and reciprocity. So reciprocity is, it's not just that the mentor is being friendly with the mentee. It's not just that the mentor is sharing with the mentee. The mentee also teaches the mentor. So there is always reciprocity in a mentoring partnership, right? Whenever I mentor someone, I always learn a lot from that person. Maybe not in terms of that particular domain knowledge, but in terms of that person's culture, background, where they have come from, right? So many things you learn in return as well. So that is social capital. Mentoring is about the transmission of knowledge, about the transmission of social capital, and also about the giving of psychosocial support. Now, some of you here, you might have been my classmates on the counseling program that we did. We did a counseling course a couple of weeks ago, and they talked a lot about psychosocial support or psychological first aid. The term they used was psychological first aid. In management here, we talk about psychosocial support. So the mentor should be able to support the mentee and the other way around in handling any sort of distress and suffering. From letting any sort of distress become worsened, right? When a person is going through distress, maybe he's lost his job, maybe he's confused in the church setting or the ministry setting, maybe he's got doubts about his faith, right? A lot of people seek a mentor when they have doubts about their faith. Maybe he has problems in his marriage, or maybe it's a young person who has got other issues that he's dealing with, youth-related issues, right? So when they are in distress, when they are suffering, a mentor should be able to handle it and quickly mitigate the situation, lessen the impact of the suffering so that it doesn't worsen and become a more serious issue. So a certain amount of counseling is involved in this. So counseling, of course, it involves being empathetic to the person, being able to put yourself into the other person's shoes, being non-judgmental, which is very important, actively listening to what they are saying. Active listening, again, we're going to talk about it in another slide in a little while, is very, very important part of mentoring from both the mentor and the mentee, right? Active listening is not just listening passively, but you're listening and you're asking questions and you're showing a genuine interest in what the other person is saying. So physically, your physical presence has to be there with your mentee, okay? And even when the mentee is talking, the mentor has to be there, and when the mentor is talking, the mentee has to be physically present as well, actively listening, asking questions, and encouraging him to go on. It's not just passively taking stuff in. And the mentor should also help the mentee with coping mechanisms on whatever problem he's going through, provide various solutions, alternative solutions for his problems, and other forms of support. It could be maybe referring him to a psychologist or a psychiatrist if you're not able to counsel him, referring him to a senior theologian or pastor if you're not able to answer his questions, right? So that's what psychosocial support is about. So we have agreed on this definition of mentoring, that it's an informal process of transmitting knowledge, psychosocial support, and social capital from the mentor to the mentee. The mentor should be somebody who has more knowledge, more experience. The protege is somebody who has less knowledge and less experience, right? So now, keeping this definition in mind, let's continue looking at mentoring. So differences between mentoring and coaching, I've already said a little bit about that. Mentoring tends to be informal. Coaching is very formal, very structured. Like coaching and training, you usually start off with a curriculum. We have a syllabus. I'm also an educator. I teach in colleges here. So we always have to start off formal coaching or training with a syllabus. We understand the needs of the class. Then we work on a curriculum. Okay, what you're going to do every day in class, what you're going to do for the first 2 hours, what you're going to do for the next 2 hours, okay? What are the learning goals of the student? So you always, coaching and training is very formalized and very structured. Mentoring is more informal. Mentoring tends to be largely voluntary, right? Although you do have mentoring in organizations, but let's keep in mind when a boss mentors his employees, it's not really considered mentoring when it is in the job requirement of the manager. Now, most managers, they'll have a job requirement which says that they have to mentor or coach their subordinates. That would not be mentoring. That's not the traditional understanding of mentoring. It's only when there is no requirement and it's an informal relationship does it really mean that it's mentoring. So it's usually voluntary, whereas coaching tends to be paid work. Socialization is very important at mentoring. As I told you, the passing on of social capital, making friends, right? It's extremely important. In coaching and training, it's not that there is no socialization, right? You don't want to really hate your students and you don't want your students to hate you. Of course, you are friends and there might be limited socialization, but it's not necessary. You go to a classroom, you listen to what the trainer says or the coach says, you get their knowledge and you come back. You don't necessarily have to be friends with them, right? Then mentoring is more development driven and holistic. It talks about the holistic development of the person, whereas coaching is more performance driven. Usually in organizational settings, it is about making the person better in terms of his performance in some particular skill. Okay, maybe you feel that you cannot give a good presentation. You feel that your report writing skills are poor. You feel that your sales skills are poor. You're not able to make sales. Okay, so your sales manager coaches you in that one particular skill. So coaching and training tend to be more performance driven, whereas mentoring is more holistic and it is development driven. Mentors speak a lot from their experience, right? Whereas coaches have specific expertise and specialized knowledge in that particular domain. Usually coaches, now we have certifications in coaching. You have the World Coaching Federation. They usually do long-term courses and they get certified to be an official coach. All that is not needed for mentoring really, because mentoring is more informal. Okay, some other types of mentoring. As I told you, the hierarchy is not necessary for mentoring. Mentoring is only when one person has less knowledge and the other person has more knowledge. It's not necessary that one person should have authority over the other person. There does not have to be a hierarchical difference. So you can have peer-to-peer mentoring as well, and you can have group mentoring as well. We often see this in the church. When you're baptizing an infant, for instance, in a traditional church, the pastor will usually ask the church, he will ask the family, he'll ask the church members if they will support the infant in growing up spiritually, in knowing Christ, right? So in the church, we often see a group mentoring that's done through the social network within the church, right? So in this case, mentoring emerges from the dynamics of the whole group as opposed to one person.